In the snowy hills of the Kingdom of Hungary, a Gothic castle stood towering over the villages below. It belonged to a noble woman of terrifying beauty, unimaginable wealth, and, allegedly, the blood of over 650 dead girls. This is the true story of Elizabeth Báthory, one of history's most prolific female murderers, and the woman known to her people as the Bloody Countess. Born in 1560 to one of the most powerful aristocratic families in Transylvania, Elizabeth was raised in a world of privilege, political violence, and cruelty. As a child, she reportedly watched her family execute peasants and criminals, sometimes with her own uncle showing her how to torture animals for sport. At age 15, she married Count Ferenc Nadasdy, a military commander known as the Black Knight of Hungary. While he was away at war, it's said he taught her sadistic punishments to use on servants, including covering girls in honey and leaving them to be devoured by insects. But what Elizabeth did alone, inside the cold stone walls of Castle Countess, went far beyond anything her husband had imagined. Starting around 1604, villagers began to whisper about young servant girls disappearing, girls sent to the castle to serve the Countess, never to return. According to over 300 witness testimonies, Elizabeth's punishments were methodical, ritualistic, and grotesquely inventive. She reportedly stripped young girls naked, tied them down, and used knives, needles, hot irons, and burning coals to mutilate their bodies. Some were cut open, others had chunks of flesh torn out with pincers. What servant described how Elizabeth would sew girls' lips shut or bite off parts of their faces, including cheeks, shoulders, and breasts? Sometimes with her teeth, girls were beaten until their bones broke, their fingernails ripped out, their genitals branded with heated rods. Some were forced to eat their own flesh before dying. Victims were often left to bleed slowly for days, their screams echoing through the castle walls. In the winter, she reportedly dragged naked girls into the snow, poured cold water over them, and watched them freeze to death. The most infamous detail comes from one of her accomplices, a servant named Susanna. During the trial, she claimed to have seen a ledger kept by Elizabeth, listing the names of over 650 girls. That book was never found, but dozens of bodies were exhumed from around the castle. Victims were often buried in shallow graves, hidden in walls, or burned in fire pits. Villagers reported smelling burning flesh long before the accusations reached the courts. In 1610, after pressure from neighboring nobles, King Matthias II ordered her arrest. When authorities raided Castle Countess, they caught her in the act, allegedly torturing a girl whose body was still twitching on the stone floor. They found others, some dead, some barely alive, disfigured, mutilated, and locked in the cellar. Unlike her servants, who were tortured and executed for their role in the killings, Elizabeth Báthory was never put on trial. Instead, she was sentenced to house arrest, bricked inside a single room of her castle. Only a small hole was left for food to be passed through. She died 4 years later in 1614, alone in the dark. Today, some try to rewrite her story as a political setup or a myth. But the bodies were real. The testimonies were real. The victims were real. Elizabeth Báthory was not a vampire. She was something far worse, a killer with power and no one to stop her.